ask Jasper something a bit unrelated. I do have a contention with slide 10, but I'll ignore that. I just thought it might bring him into the conversation more and more with the point his friend had been making. I believe he had said his friend had made a point regarding relativity, and I was wondering how Jasper might address in a time theory form the twin paradox, which for people unfamiliar, that's where you and your twin, both the same age, your twin goes off, flies at near speeds of light to, let's say, Proxima Centauri, returns back, and then when they return, they are younger than you are. They have not passed through time at the same rate you have.
Yeah, well, I mean that was the one of the things that I have been thinking through and need to do a little bit more research on. So in terms of looking at interpretations of relativity, yeah, I unfortunately haven't looked at it all that much. Um, and so I think that that'll probably be the first thing that I kind of look at because I personally, I am not like 100% sold on A or 100% sold on B theory. I like at the moment I'm just trying to do research into which one uh, I would say is the best model of time. Um, and I mean, from some of the other people at the Philosophy Society, they've said that that was the straw that broke the camel's back for them in terms of uh, choosing the B theory of time over the A was relativity. So I'd be interested to see like to hear some of Matt's thoughts on the twin paradox, just due to the fact that I think like you've thought about this far more.
Sure. So basically, I'm actually I had a interesting experience with my mom a number of years ago. She went in for a major surgery, and they actually gave her a drug. It was a really fantastic thing. They gave her a drug that had the effect of eliminating her ability to perceive time, and this was to eliminate her suffering, because apparently suffering requires you to be aware that you're in suffering, and if you have no awareness of time, then you have no awareness that you've been in suffering, that you've been in pain. Really fascinating how they treated her. And so when she finally came off the drug, she had no awareness that anything had happened because even though I had interacted with her, uh, all gone because there's no passage of time. And what that tells me is that our perceptions are generally reliable, but our perceptions are not infallible, and we are prone to experience things differently than the way that they are in real life. And so the way that I would say with the twin paradox, we need to be able to identify them. So let's say that twin R is the one that remains, and twin L is the one that leaves. All right, so we can say R and L. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And remind me, it goes faster for who?
It goes faster for the one remaining on
Okay.
twin R.
So twin R is older
And just to
than.
be clear, twin L is not perceiving time as moving slower. Twin L is literally moving slower through time. It's not like a illusion. They are literally moving slower through time.
We'll see. But I mean, we need to give an account, right? So I'm trying to give an account.
Okay.
But my question is then on the B theory, he moves through less time. So he's younger. The L is younger, right?
L is younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So what we would say then on the relational view of time is that both our perception of time and then actual like changes that we experience, it's all relational based on change. And so what we could say is that there's an absolute reference frame relative to which both R and L are in motion, and that they're having their own perceptions, but those perceptions are not absolute time because they're not in that absolute reference frame. In other words, basically, what would be happening is that twin L's, all of the molecules would be moving slower. They would be his perceptions would be slower as a result, and so he would perceive time as being slower. There's no time that he's moving through. That's a denial on presentism. There's no such thing, and the relational view of time. There is no time for him to move through. because time's not a substance; it's not a thing. And so I don't want to presume that time is a substance and then try to answer I can't assume as a premise a presupposition, something that the view itself rejects. And so what we would say is that twin L he experiences less change, including internal changes. And so in virtue of him experiencing those less internal changes, he would have a perception of having experienced less time, even though he was actually simultaneous with some absolute inertial reference frame, just like R was. And from R's perspective, they both endured through the same number of changes that this absolute, we'll call it A, absolute reference frame observed.
Well, I think within relativity, the point is that there is no absolute frame. It's all relative.
Well, on the Neil Lorentzian view, there is an actual absolute reference frame, and there's several candidates for that. On a few. So first of all, if you look at Lorentz transformations, light never changes. No matter what inertial reference frame you're in, light is always the same. So I wonder if light might be a candidate for an absolute inertial reference frame, since it's never different no matter what. That's one. The second thing is and a naturalist could accept this, is that the initial inertial reference frame, at one point there was a Big Bang, right? So everything was in this singularity where everything occupied presumably the same inertial reference frame, and then it all expanded from there. And so that initial inertial reference frame could be privileged, and then because every other inertial frame is derived from it, it's a derivative, whereas there's this initial that would be one reason to give it a privileged position. I've heard that cosmic microwave background radiation is a potential candidate for an absolute inertial reference frame. And so there's a few different candidates. Obviously, if God exists and is temporal, as it seems to be the case on Christianity, then certainly we'd have reason to say that, well, his inertial reference frame is certainly privileged. And so there are a few different candidates for a privileged inertial reference frame. Thank you for listening. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. Please also look at the show notes in order to find a link to our group so that you can join our next discussion. I look forward to chatting with you.